Hi, my name is Stephen Sindoni. Today is Saturday, May 19th, 2012. My guest is Ramon Almonte. Ramon is a native New Yorker of Dominican parentage who was raised on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. At an early age, Ramon fell in love with ufology, science fiction, and spirituality, which was very instrumental in molding who he is as a person, developing his character. Ramon is presently the co-host of the 100th Monkey radio show that used to be heard weekly on BBS radio on the internet, but now it can be heard on YouTube. Ramon is also the author of a book entitled Scratching the Cosmic Conscious. Ramon is presently residing in Japan. Ramon, I'd like to welcome you to Stephen's World Talk Radio.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you bringing me on the show.
Well, it's my pleasure. You're a very interesting fellow, and I think it's important that the public get to find out who Ramon Almonte is today.
Well, let's see. It all started, I was born in like 1976 in New York, as everybody knows. But I think my earliest memory was I had an out-of-body experience when I was either 2 or 3 because I was still in the crib. And as I'm looking at my baby bottle, I'm trying to grab it, my hand's going through it. And my hand keeps going through the baby bottle, and I was getting frustrated, and that's all I really remember. But after that, to move a little fast forward, my parents, especially on my mother's side, they were very into Santeria. So that was like my beginning spirituality on one side. And then on the other side, my father was a Baptist. So don't ask me how those two ended up together, because my mother was practicing. And Santeria, for those of you who don't know, is the combination of the African religion Yoruba, which is from the west coast of Africa, and Catholicism. So most slaves in the Caribbean and in most places couldn't practice their religion, so they had to cover it up. And they took their deities and covered it with the saints from the Catholic religion. So as that went on, my parents, like a lot of American kids, go through divorce, and I went through my really angry stage. But there was a teacher I had, and her name was Miss Mintz. And this is 4th grade, so it's like 1980s, 86, 87. And anyway, she was the first person to teach me on meditation. And her meditation was very simple. It's like she took you into this, you were on a beach, you imagine you're on a beach, you floated up into the clouds, and then when you were in the clouds, you brought in what she called the blue pearl, which was amazing that a teacher in that time period was actually doing this. And of course, the principal and the other teachers didn't know about this. She did this kind of quiet and hush hush. So I think she was very instrumental in opening me up. But I practiced for a while, like maybe 6 months. But being a 9 or 10-year-old boy, you kind of like fall back in. But at that time, I really, there was a guy who introduced me to the famous plant marijuana. So I kind of like closed up for many years and moved on. And then to fast forward, my parents got divorced, and I was going to, like I was saying, I was going through the angry stage. And when I got around 17, as my partner in my radio show always says, the proverbial 2x4 hit me in the face, and I won't go into details, but I got in trouble with the law. And it's the first time when you're facing you might do time, because at that time I wanted to be a tough guy, and we were like, the kids I was hanging out with at the time, we were like forming a wannabe gang, and at this point, I saw myself like, I might be locked up for a couple of years, and I might become someone's girlfriend, and that really scared the crap out of me.
So you
you
grew
know.
up you grew up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Is that not correct?
Yeah, which is not too far from Columbia University. But at that time, the Columbia students did not cross, past a certain point because it wasn't like dangerous and shoot 'em up kind of thing, but it wasn't. It was a sketchy neighborhood, and if you go now, it's just overpriced and all these really nice restaurants. And but back then, it was like predominantly a black neighborhood, and it, I don't know. It was just like the crack infestation was just all over the place.
So you would say it
So
was territorial then, the neighborhoods in that time.
very territorial. Very, especially when it came to the whole thing with the drug spots and stuff like that. And a lot of it, for us growing up, our heroes were the drug dealers, and that's horrible that that's who your heroes are these drug dealers who, and some of the big heroes that even to this day they've been dead like for 20 years and people still talk about them like they did something great. But really, what did they contribute to society? But not to go off topic too much, but so I got back into meditation, and that really woke me up. I got to change. That's the first hint in my life that was like, I have to make a change. I have to become someone different. This person I am now is just going to lead me down a bad path, and I don't like it. So I started reading a lot of books, and, this brings me to a very funny story. In 1994, we were like, at that time, I was in this park called Morningside Park in Harlem, and we were like, drinking and smoking pot, and this guy brings out this book, and the book is David Icke's book, and I think it was the first book he wrote, and he's like so into it, and he's telling us about it. I'm like, oh, that's all BS, man, and then the irony about it is that now, like, I'm a huge fan of David Icke, and I have the utmost respect for him, and to look at him back then as like, oh, that's all BS, really not knowing what I was talking about, having no prior knowledge to any of it. But to move forward, I've had like a lot of, in my family, there's been a lot of, especially on my father's side, there's been a lot of weird things. Like, for example, my grandmother when my father was really young, there was this, what she called a really tall man in the room. She wakes up and there's this really tall man, and I'm not really sure the story what he looked like, but he was this really tall man in the room, and she asked him like, "What are you doing here?" And he didn't like want to answer her, so she got kind of scared and grabbed some scissors. And according to her, she threw the scissors at the guy, and it hit his arm and it hit the wall, and the guy turned into a cat and then ran away. And then with my, so I'm just giving you a brief history of what I know of my family. And with my father, he's always like seen entities, and one of the entities he's seen is like grays and stuff like that. So within my family, this is kind of a common occurrence kind of thing. So I always wonder like what's really happening there. But to regress back a little bit to finish that up, when I was, how old was I? I think I was either 18 or 19. I went to a psychic, and because of the prior trouble I have gotten into, I was a little worried of retribution, and so I went to a psychic, and the psychic was telling me like, you're being watched, and then I was like, by who? And she was like very resistant to tell me, but then she finally said, you have aliens that watch you. And I was like, what? And again, it was just that, right away I kind of closed up, and I was just like, this woman's crazy. I thought in my mind, what a waste of money. But, finding out about my father and my grandmother is more like, well, she might be right. I've had since then I've had some weird stuff happen, so that only on shows like this I can talk about. Talk about this stuff in my neighborhood. It just blew me out.
Well, that's why I'm giving you the opportunity to have the forum here, because these are things that you can't talk on the street corner.
Yeah, and it kills me because we can talk about, the latest sneakers and, what superstar got drunk last night, but, we can't talk about what reality really is and what our conscious is really, what are we really here for? Because I know damn well we're not here to pay taxes and then die, as some people say.
I'll tell you what we're here for. We're here to talk about your book. I like to talk about scratching the cosmic conscious. By the way, I found it thoroughly enjoying. I'd like you to tell the listeners what inspired you to write this book, Ramon.
Well, let's go back to 2002. I had just finished reading The Alchemist, and between The Alchemist and a friend of mine who was psychic, I always wanted to come to Japan, but I was always waiting for something to happen to bring me here. Something else had to bring me here, and I read The Alchemist, and I saw the way, for those of you who never read this book, you need to read it. When I told my friend about, I always want to go to Japan, she kind of went into this, real weird vibe that she gets into, and her face kind of goes blank, and then I guess she was channeling, is the best way I can describe it, and she said, if you don't go soon to Japan, you'll never go. And the reason why I'm bringing this up of the inspiration, when I came to Japan, I brought the ticket, I had $800 in my pocket, and I found a girl I had met was like, okay, I'll rent you the room for it was like $400 when you do the exchange rate, $400 a month. So, I gave her the money, so now I'm flat broke, and another person I knew got me a job washing dishes. So when I was there, it was Christmas, and they don't really celebrate Christmas here. So I'm by myself, and I'm walking, and I pass a canal, and I was so depressed because it was the first Christmas without my family. And then that's when I was looking at the water, and something about the water just hit me, and that feeling of depression was gone. It was my first feeling of being at one. So after I felt like I need to write a book, and then came 2007. That whole time I had that yearning to write a book, but I wasn't sure I would start a page on one book and then not do it, and then start a couple pages for another book and not do it. And 2007, I said I need to sit down and write this book, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write about my personal experience, but also adding into it the experience I would love to have and where I would love to be. So this book is basically about the spiritual journey of a person and where we can be at.
Your main character in your book is named Trevor, who also happens to be Dominican as you are. Is this book a reflection of Ramon Almonte?
It's an exaggerated version of me, a couple of friends. There's other people in combined with that character. So there's a lot of me in there, obviously, and there's a little bit of other people as well involved with it. But with the character, he goes through his trials and tribulation as I did myself. So that's an obvious one. But if you look at the context, the name of each chapter is not like accidental either. Would you like me to go into that now, or do you want to say that for a little later?
One of the things I want to say is that the storyline in your book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, which I encourage everyone to read it, to me raised many questions about a person's spiritual path. Can you embellish upon the importance of that for the listeners, the spiritual path?
Well, when you strip away everything, let's take away your money, let's take away your house, let's even take away your physical body. What are you left with? You're left with a spirit, a consciousness. And that's who you really are. You're not a human person having a spiritual experience. You're a spiritual person, a spiritual being having a human experience. So Scratching the Cosmic Conscience, the reason why I picked that is because we're barely starting to scratch this universal conscious, this cosmic conscious, this great beyond that we barely understand, that we've put so many labels on. And we are that. We're part of that. We are that. There is no separation in that. Just like there's no separation between Ramon Almonte and Steve Sidoni. But there's that perspective of separation.
You know, that's a good point, because after reading your book, I came away with a deeper appreciation for life in the universe, knowing that we are all connected. Was that your intention in writing the book?
You know, in the beginning, to be honest with you, I really didn't know where I was going. So writing the book was a journey for myself. And whenever it took me 6 years, and whenever I didn't write, I felt like I was letting Trevor down. So as Trevor's character grew, I grew, and the book started defining itself. You know, things would come to me, and I would get inspired from different things. And because of writing this book, actually pushed me right heavy into my own spiritual path. So at that time, I was doing meditation, but I wasn't really doing research like I am now. I wasn't doing a radio show. I wasn't meeting all these other people that were really into this. So, you would hear people here and there talk about all the different aspects of life, but I wasn't really reading all these books that I'm reading now. I wasn't, writing, taking notes down, and the best of all, the people that I'm meeting because of this book. So in writing the book defined itself. What does that mean exactly? I'm not really sure. I'm still figuring that one out. But the character Trevor, I think the character Trevor is a reflection of just the human species, just as the alien species that I call the arboreals are. But they're what I would say where we want to be at. So it's kind of like the preschooler looking at the high school student who's graduating into college and saying, "Oh, I'm going to be there one day." So when you have my main character meets these alien species, and they're more advanced, and it's not that they're better, that they're gods, it's that they're just at a higher grade. So one day we will be there. So that's what I mean by the book was defining itself, because now Trevor has somebody to look up to, and this is, the most important thing that I want you to get from the book. If you don't get anything else, and you think, whatever you think about the book, the most important thing that I want you to get is that you don't need a master. You are your own master. You are your own sovereign being, and that's who you need to find. You don't need to go out and look and, do all these things. You are your own guru. You are your own sifu, your master, your sensei. That's who you are. And so you are your student and master.
I found your book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, fascinating. As I said, to me it was a cross between Avatar, The Matrix, and Reality 101 growing up in New York City. What I thought it was It's really a first-class adventure, and it's spiritually charged with sci-fi novel, and it has some roots. It's got some backbone. Even a Jules Verne journey with a time machine, sort of a twist to it. So I encourage everyone who are listening here to get this book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, because you will all thoroughly enjoy this book, as I have.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. One of the writing things I would do is like I would play either like some chakra music or some indigenous music or Navajo music, something to inspire me, because what I kept repeating every time before I started writing was like, let me tap in, because I didn't just want to write something to write, if it inspires you, if it inspires one person and they make a difference in this world, then I made a difference in this world. And that's what matters. So to help inspire others and inspire myself, because the more I grow, the people around me grow.
Well, I got to tell you, it inspired me tremendously. I have an interview to do probably Tuesday. It's taken me into a direction that I wanted to go in, but by reading your book, it allowed me to go more spiritually deeper into the solutions that I want to present as we go forward. Question for you, Ramon. Has living in Japan, in a different culture, helped you to better understand the shortcomings of our Western civilization?
Yes. I no longer look at it that way. I look at it this way. I look at it as like it's helped me to understand the shortcomings of the human species. Not only, because the Japanese culture definitely has its shortcomings, as so does, I think, all societies. There's this, on one side you have certain things from the Western cultures that's just terrible, and then on the other side, like, okay, so for example, in the United States, it's a pretty dangerous place, but not everywhere, but you can't just put your wallet down and expect no one to pick it up. Well, guess what? In Japan, I can put my wallet down and leave it on the train and forget about it, and then come back a month later, and someone had picked it up, gave it to the police, and the police have it there, and all the money's in there. It's almost 90% sure that that's going to happen, unless a foreigner walks by it first, then you're in trouble. But on the other side, then you have this apathy in Japan that is like, if you fall down, you better hope that someone helps you out, because there's a good chance no one's going to help you out. They're just going to walk by, because it's not my problem. I don't get involved. If I ignore it, it'll go away. So you have these terrible things on both sides. So what living in Japan has helped me is like, okay, what's good for my society and what's good from this society, and let's combine that. And that's something that I started, as I was getting deeper into writing the book, I started putting in more and more solutions, and these things were coming to me, and it's like, what vision do I want to see into our own future? How can we live? And just to give you a little background with the aliens, without giving it away, but they're a society that has combined their technology into the plants. So when you look at it, I can have all these massive computers and all these things, and you won't even know. All you'll see is a forest, and it's just regular plants. And their transportation, everything is out of, it's made out of plants. So it grows and dies, and I think that's the direction we should be going in. Yes.
Ramon, without letting the cat out of the bag, so to speak, what would you say would be the moral of your story? Is there a lesson in the book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, for the reader to learn?
Yes, that you are your own master. You are your savior. You are who you're waiting for. You are the change that you want to see, as Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. That's who you are. Because Trevor went from there's a part where he completely breaks down, and he reaches to this other part, and that's and that's our goal. So what I want you to take away with this is that you are who you're waiting for. Waiting for these aliens to come down and save us, or these, or Jesus or Buddha, whoever you're into. You are that person.
In your book here, when I was reading, there was one of your characters is named Felicia, who happened to be Trevor's girlfriend, who I won't give this away, who Trevor was madly in love with. And was this someone that you knew personally, that you, so why you used her in the book?
Okay, so this is a funny story. So actually, no one in my life died that way tragically, but sometimes you learn a hard lesson, and in 2005, I had a girlfriend I was madly in love with, and she always had her doubts about our relationship. So when our relationship ended, it was like she died. So it was, she pulled away from me so fast that it was like she had died. So for me personally, I went through I shut down emotionally. Like I became very cold.
Yeah, your character Felicia put a very big strain on the character Trevor's psyche, where he had a hard time handling with the loss. And as I read that, I just thought it was important to ask you today what the correlation was between that character and if it was, came out of a personal situation. So I'm glad that you shared that with me, because you explained it very, very emotionally, and I came away saddened by the loss reading the book, and I felt the closeness to the character based on what he was going through. Because if anyone's ever lost someone, I've lost my brother and other family members, it's hard to put into words what that loss means to you, especially if you really love that person and you weren't ready for them to leave you, or if they leave you in such a tragic type of a fashion. So I commend you for your description of Trevor's pains that he was going through. You did a great job in explaining that in the book.
Thank you. We've all lost people. I've lost friends and family to some tragic stuff, but at the same time, is with Trevor, he goes through it, and not only that, it's that what you must know is that you don't die. You lose your physical shell. It's like the car is junked. Well, what you do with the junk car, you kind of throw it away, so you bury the body, but the soul, the spirit, the essence, that's not gone. Science says that energy can't be destroyed or made. So what does that mean? I mean, the first time I heard that to me proved that there was life after death.
Well, interesting we talk about that now, but you know me for a number of years now, and I made the journey out from New York to California in search of the legend of J.C. Brown, a fictitious name where later I learned the man's name was John Benjamin Body, only to find out later. Fortunately for me, after I discovered his true identity, I was able to get a photo of the man, and the man looks exactly like me. And when I went to California and I found tunnels, I found different things leading to what the man had found 90 years before, I realized the only way this could have happened is I had to have been John Benjamin Body. So I learned in this lifetime one of my layers, and I'm fortunate for that. And many people listening to this might have a hard time believing that, we don't die and reincarnate. But I'm here to tell you that if you listen, you will get signals and signs that'll show you that we don't die. We continue to evolve, and we come back on this planet to be able to learn and be perfect with the Creator.
I agree. We're constantly in a learning phase, and I don't know how the idea came that we just died, and then either you A, go to hell, or B, go to heaven. And I kind of, as a kid, I used to always find that as like, that's kind of a waste. Like I have to come here, be obedient, and then either live in a city of gold, the way it was described to me, or I burn in hell. And I was like, boy, that kind of sucks.
It reminds me of an old Bill Cosby joke. You must obey, Obey. It sounds like, an oboe. What's this fire and brimstone? I thought our God was a loving God, not one.
Yeah, what happened?
So was this God wearing colors? Was he in a motorcycle gang or something? What happened to the God, the loving God that I've come to know in my heart? So it's interesting when you get that coming from the powers that be, trying to put you in fear when it comes to your own individual spirituality.
Yeah, and I gotta give a lot of thanks to James Gilliland, because that, when you get to the that's the last chapter, and I won't give it away, but there's a part where he actually meets a version of God, and that, not the whole thing, but some of it comes from James Gilliland's own experience when he died. And for those of you who are familiar with him, that's where I got that part, was from his own experience. So, what is it that we're here for? What are we looking for? Why bother? And you're here for growth. This is a school. That at least that's the way I look at it, and that's from my perspective. You don't have to agree with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody has their own perspective. I personally know James Gilliland. I've been on his ranch, as I know you have, and I've seen some hard-to-explain things while being on his ranch that defy logic. And can I quickly tell a quick story here?
Yes, please.
All right, and I don't think I've ever told you this. We're on the ranch the first night there. And we're out there looking at the stars out in the field there, where everybody sits with the chairs in a circle. There must have been about 30 people, but it started to rain. And this is back in 2008, and this was 8808. So it's the big eight, so to speak.
Wow.
But it started to rain, so we all went back to our tents or the housing, and I went in my tent, and my girlfriend and I had separate tents, and it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at this time, and we both fell asleep. About 3 hours later, I was awakened by a presence over my tent that was about 8 foot in height. I look over, I thought it was a bear out of my tent. Now, my front screen was closed, Ramon, so I couldn't see out, thank God. So I got my boots on. When I unzipped the screen, whatever it was had disappeared. And I'm looking out, I don't see anything, but now you hear the dogs barking and flashlights and a big commotion. While this is going on, I get out and I'm looking for this thing, whatever it was, and I'm looking out in the field, I don't see anything. So I ran into this fellow, Michael, there, and he told me, "Did you see it?" I said, "I saw something. It's about 8 foot tall." He goes, "Other people have seen it." So I go out, and I sat there in a circle now from 3 o'clock in the morning till 6, till the sun comes up. Now, Renee comes over at 6, and she says to me, she goes, "I heard you and Michael talking." I says, "Yeah." She said, "I thought I heard you around 2 o'clock get out of your tent and walk in front of the tent in the field there, which is, would be right in front of Mount Adams there." She says, "I thought maybe you had to relieve yourself or something." But then I looked, and she says, "Wait a minute, Stephen's about 5'6" or 5'7". This figure I'm looking at is about 8 feet tall, and it was looking at her for about 20 minutes and just stood still there. And she lost it. She's saying, "Please don't hurt me," and she was sending thoughts to this entity or this being. So she's telling me this, and then right after that, people started waking up, and I'm still sitting there in the circle, and they were saying, a lot of people saw this large being. And then I ran into James in the morning, and I told James what had happened. He says, yeah, he says, my sister saw it as well. They visit us quite often. So I just figured I'd share that with you, that there are the tall ones among us probably living underneath the hollows of Mount Adams.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some weird stuff there. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance, but, you know, what you should have done was got an interview.
I was glad that I did not have my front zipper open, because at 2 o'clock in the morning, I might have had a heart attack, Ramon. I mean, that's something, because, you know, I was in a little pup tent, and what would have happened was if I had unzipped the zipper when I saw this ominous shadow over my tent, it would have been probably too much to handle, because it was pitch dark, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what my reaction would have been. I'm not John Wayne, for that matter, and I don't think the unexpected would have been good for my heart at that particular time. Although, you know, as I said, I had just come away from, you know, being in the field there, and you could vouch for this, seeing some amazing craft in the sky that when James would flick his laser light, they would power back with a light as though they were acknowledging his laser light going up and beaming up into space.
Yeah. Agreed. I've definitely seen that more than once. I got a funny story about the ranch really quick. When I was there, 2010, I was staying there for 3 weeks. And towards the last week, everybody, you know, the conference was over and everybody went back. And that was the first time I got to meet my partner in the radio show, Tom. And he went back already. And I was you know, I was walking around the ranch and everybody was already tired. And so a lot of people who were there, I went to sleep early. So it's maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to have contact, this is the perfect night to have contact. There's nobody around. I don't want to hear any excuses. So I'm like walking around the property. So finally I get tired, go to sleep. And I don't know how much longer later, but I wake up and there's this green light flashing on the wall. And I was like, oh shit, this is it. Oops, sorry. I was, you know, I was like, uh-oh, this is it. We're making contact, but I'm scared out of my mind, and I'm just like, okay, gonna make contact. You gotta turn around. No, wait. What? Who is it? And finally, when I had the cojones to turn around, it was the coffee pot, the timer on the coffee pot flashing. So I finally I told myself, I said, be careful what you ask for. You might get it, you know. And it's like we're always talking about let's make contact, but are we truly really ready? And I mean, it's easy for you to say, yeah, I'm ready, you know, yeah. But when you're really faced with it, how would you react? Because the last thing you want to react is in an ignorant way, which is like, I'm going to get my gun or, you know, pick up a bat. It's like, these guys just flew here from wherever.
Well, you know, you're right. It's like the universe has a sense of humor. For me, like the following year in 9909, I'm up on Mount Shasta, another, you know, 3-digit numerology year. And we're up there, and everybody's wanting to see a craft, a presence, something at the mountain, because a lot of craft are seen, not only Mount Adams, but Mount Shasta as well. So we're up there, and it's a full moon that night, I believe, and up there a couple of hours. So finally we come down from the mountain, and we're in front of my residence. So we're praying there. I take sage out, and I do a little spiritual saging of the area where I'm at. And all of a sudden, after about 10 minutes of us doing this, we look up, and the cloud just opens up, this large lenticular cloud, and what we see is about a dozen large craft that's flying above us. and must have been lasted for about 10 minutes. It made its way east away from us. So it had left the mountain and was going east, and you could see it for about 10, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden the lenticular cloud just closed up, and my friend and I looked at each other, and she says, I'm glad I wasn't alone when I saw this, because no one would believe what we both just saw.
Yeah. I mean, there was another time back at ECETI where it was my last day, and I was coming back to New York. I was still living in New York at that time, so I was flying back to New York. And there was this guy and these two girls from Australia there, and we're sitting there. It was a cold night. Even though it's summertime, Mount Adam gets really cold at nighttime. So anyway, we're sitting there, we're bundled up in our jackets, and I see what looks like a satellite coming over, just like a satellite, except this stops, and it's like to the to the right of Mount Adams, and it stops, and all of a sudden there was this flash of light, like someone took a picture, and all you saw was, the best way I can explain this, was like a blue plasma cloud dispersing. It didn't look like regular cloud. It looked like plasma, like a blue plasma dispersing. And I don't know what that meant, what just happened. I hope their engine didn't backfire or something, or whatever they use. But I was amazed by that.
Well, another interesting thing, while I was on the ranch, the amount of orbs that people had photographed, because everyone had their cameras at night, and everyone would be taking pictures. I mean, you would see hundreds of orbs in a lot of people's different photographs that were hovering right there on James's property, which there are a few places that I've ever seen that many orbs in one place. So I don't know if there's a portal in that area there. It must be some sort of a gateway there, which allows his property to have all these unusual things happening.
Yeah, that's one thing. There's like some kind of vortex there, and I don't know when the last time you went up there, but he has like a Tibetan wheel, and that's where he thinks that's like the main spot for it. And the energy there is just amazing. It's just really, really, really amazing. I was sometimes people go up there and just have spontaneous feelings, or the dreams that people have up there are just crazy.
So what's next for you?
Well, I'm working on another book, and I'm hoping this one will be a lot faster than 6 years. So I'm trying to work on it a little more, and keep doing the show and trying to raise the consciousness here by bringing great guests on.
Well, speaking of the show, can you tell the listeners how they can listen to that show?
Yeah. It's called the 100th Monkey Radio Show, and it's with me and Tom. And you can just go to www.the100th, make sure you put the TH, monkeyradio.com. And we do a weekly show, and we usually air it on Sundays. I'm always thinking like in Japanese time, so that would be Mondays in Japan, but Sunday afternoons. We release it in the morning around 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's when we release it. So, or you can go also over to YouTube, to Tom's YouTube channel, which is Tao2929. And also I have a link right on there where you can find a book. You can find the book on Amazon and Creative Space. And for those of you that go to ECETI, you can find it there as well. So you can save yourself the shipping costs and just pick it up there. Yeah.
Well, As I said, Ramon, your book, Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, is a very, very interesting book. One that I had difficulty putting it down once I picked it up to read it. And within a couple of days, as I promised you that I was going to read it cover to cover, I came away very impressed with Trevor's journey in the book and the way you articulated things and the way you expressed spirituality based on your perceptions of it, and you did a great job with that in the book there. So I have to tell you, anyone out there listening, please go to Ramon's sites there and pick up a copy of Scratching the Cosmic Conscious, because it's well worth reading.
I really appreciate it. Do we have a little time? Because I want to go over the content, the name of the chapters.
Sure, we've got at least 10 minutes or so, Ramon. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. So I'll go over real quick. So I have 9 chapters, and I picked the names specifically. So, for example, Finding My Bliss is the name of the first chapter. So, what is it that's going to make you happy? So that's where we need to start. Once we realize, okay, I don't like this journey that I'm on right now. So what is your bliss? So you need to find that. Prepping, how can you prepare yourself? What is it, the tools you need? And one of the tools I would personally recommend is meditation. And what is meditation? Well, we know prayer is talking to God, but as some other people say, meditation is listening. Too often we do too much talking and don't listen enough. I teach English here, and I'm always telling my kids that. So, preparing yourself. The next one would be jumping off the emotional bridge. And that is, the trauma that you're carrying with you, releasing that trauma. We all have our issues. There's not one story here that that doesn't have issues. We're challenged, so it's releasing those things. The next chapter, I called it Downloading the Soul. That's basically is coming in contact with your true nature. What are you? Are you just a bag of bones that pays taxes? I don't think so. So, bringing that higher awareness, that higher self, into our 3D awareness, not that different. Well, when you really look down into it, we're not that different from each other. We all want the same things. We want a good life. We want our 3 square meals. We want our close ones to be safe and sound. We want to be happy. We want to find happiness. It's not the journey. I'm sorry, it's not the place, but the journey. And, this, what we call life, it's a journey. And it's not, we're so focused on what's going to happen tomorrow, but what's happening right now, this second, I'm enjoying this conversation I'm having with Stephen. That's what's important right now. Not, did I pay the bills, so I gotta wake up in the morning? No, that's not important. What's important now is that me and Steve are enjoying ourselves in this conversation. For example, man in the mirror, friend or foe. You can be your best friend or you can be your worst enemy. And that could be the worst person in your life or the best person in your life is yourself. And in that chapter, I'll go over it really quickly, but I had, when was it, 2008, I think it was, or 7. I spent 2 weeks in silent meditation at a place called Vispassia up in Massachusetts. And by the 6th day, I was completely out of my mind. And that really helped me get in contact with myself. Contradictions. Where we're always putting this facade for other people and ourselves, And what we're always contradicting ourselves and all the different things. So, for example, you look at the Bible, you see all these contradictions in the Bible. And the last one is, if you want something, give it away. So, for example, you want to reach a higher state, then help other people. That doesn't mean go intrude on them, but help them. You know, if they ask you for your help them. And that's, you know, giving away that love. And that's pretty much it.
Well, you know, you're right, though. I think what we need to learn is to be in service, and to be in service, you go into your heart, to love everyone as, you know, you want to be loved, and share that, and reciprocate that. And I think that'll help us all on the journey. Ramon, this has been a fantastic hour that we've spent. Tell everyone about your book, where they can get it again, please.
You can go over to Amazon and just type it in, or to Creative Space, or you can go to our website, which is www.the100thmonkey.com. Make sure you put the TH at the end of 100th. 100thmonkeyradio.com. And then you scroll down, and you can find the links there. And up front, I want to thank anybody who purchased the book. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Steve. I've had a wonderful time.
Well, so have I. And a pitch for your book one last time here. Scratching the Cosmic Conscious. Please get this book, because it will help you on your own personal journey. And I was enthralled with the book, Ramon, I must tell you, and knowing you, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to call you friend, but it'll help everyone better understand that man in the mirror. It's been great today, Ramon. Any final words you want to leave with the listeners?
Well, the most important thing is be the change you want to see in the world. You know, don't talk about it, be about it. You know, don't complain. The world sucks. Make it better. You know, and we're not talking about move a mountain in one day, but, you know, little by little, little by little.
Well, you're exactly right. I'm wholehearted in agreement with you. Again, thank you for coming on this late hour. I know it's late there in Japan, and it's early here in America right now for me. So I want to thank you for coming on at this late hour. But it seemed like this was the best time that worked for us. But just know that I enjoyed having you on here today, and if you want other opportunities, just let me know. If you want to continue the dialogue, we can continue that. So again, I want to thank you, Ramon, and I want to thank the listeners for listening to Stephen's World Talk Radio. It's been a pleasure and very enjoyable. Thank you, Ramon.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.